It's a pleasure to welcome Jens Stoltenberg for that meeting in the European Council. You know that NATO and the European Union, we share the same values. We work closely together, and this is absolutely certain that again Ukraine will be an important topic on the agenda. You know that we are working on the EU side to strengthen our European defense capabilities, and I'm absolutely convinced that by strengthening the European capabilities, we are strengthening NATO, because strong allies make strong alliances. And dear Jens, with the 27 leaders today, we'll have the occasion to exchange views and to get prepared for the NATO summit, because you know that many European Union member states are also NATO members. Welcome, Jens.
Thank you so much, President Michel. Charles, it's a great honor to be back, and thank you so much for inviting me to the European Council. And thank you also for your personal commitment to the strategic partnership between the European Union and NATO. And this partnership is extremely important now when we face a full-fledged war in Europe, the war which goes on in Ukraine. And I commend the European Union for the support you have provided to Ukraine, unprecedented, and also NATO allies, and NATO is providing unprecedented support to Ukraine. It demonstrates how we complement each other. We work also together on many other areas, including on resilience or critical infrastructure. And we have a task force together, the European Commission, supported also by the European External Action Services. And the report is released today on how we can further strengthen what the European Union and NATO does together to protect energy, infrastructure, transport infrastructure, and other types of critical infrastructure. Last, I would say that the situation in Kosovo also demonstrates the importance of NATO-EU cooperation. NATO strongly supports the efforts of the European Union, the diplomatic efforts, the EU-facilitated dialogue. With our military presence on the ground, the KFOR forces, we have increased our presence there, and we call on all the parties to de-escalate, to refrain from any action that can further increase tensions, and to engage in good faith in the EU-facilitated dialogue. So once again, Charles, I very much look forward to the meeting today.
Thank you.
The Wagner mutiny mean for Europe's stability, and also how should Europe react concern when there may be instability in Russia in the future?
The mutiny we saw at the weekend demonstrates that there are cracks and divisions within the Russian system. At the same time, it is important to underline that these are internal Russian matters, and it's too early to draw any final conclusions. Also because it's not yet clear how many of the Wagner forces that will end up in Belarus or other places. What matters for NATO is that we will continue to support Ukraine. At the summit, I expect new announcements of military support to Ukraine. We will also agree a multi-year program to help Ukraine move towards NATO, to be fully interoperable with NATO. So we just need to continue to support Ukraine and ensure that Ukraine prevails as a sovereign, independent nation in Europe.
Are you adjusting your support to Ukraine after the events this weekend in Russia, and how?
We are together with the European Union, NATO allies have provided unprecedented support, and we are stepping up. Just over the last weeks, we have seen new announcements from EU, but also from NATO allies, of additional support, and also the training of the F-16 pilots have started.
I would like to say that what we have seen during the last weekend is in contrast with the very strong EU unity and NATO-EU unity. This is a very important point. Additional element, I have the occasion is today to meet with the opposition leadership in Belarus, and we are also following closely what's happening in this country.
Security guarantees.
On Kosovo, there's criticism that the EU is punishing Prime Minister Kurti and embracing President Vučić too much. Do you share that criticism?
I want to be very clear. We fully support all the efforts made together with this good cooperation with NATO by the High Representative Borrell. And I would like to say that we also support the idea, as soon as possible, to organize a conference with some EU member states very active in order to support all the mediation efforts in close coordination with the United States, because we feel that the recent months we have seen some difficulties becoming reasons for escalation. And I think that time is come to have a global approach. Time is come to make clear steps in direction of the normalization, and it's very important because you know that on the EU side we would like also to do our best for the Western Balkans together with the Western Balkans.
Should there be new security guarantees for Ukraine? The Ukraine wants security guarantees until NATO or EU membership. Should there be new security guarantees for Ukraine?
Well, at the NATO summit, we will address Ukraine's membership aspirations, and I'm absolutely confident that the NATO allies will send a very strong message of support to Ukraine. We also have to remember that all NATO allies agree that NATO's door is open. This is demonstrated recently by inviting Finland and Sweden to become members of the alliance. We also agree that Ukraine will become a member of the alliance, and we agree that it is not for Russia but for the NATO allies and Ukraine to decide when the time is right to extend a full invitation for Ukraine to join. The most important thing and the most immediate and urgent task is to support Ukraine, to ensure that Ukraine prevails as a sovereign, independent nation in Europe, because unless we are able to do that, there is no membership issue to be discussed at all. And let me also mention that this is also where an area where we see a link with the European Union, because of course the EU decision to grant Ukraine candidate status, of course also has an impact on the discussions which are taking place within NATO.
Yes, please.
The European Commission discussed the preliminary assessment of reforms. How optimistic you are on Georgia, Ukraine and Moldova?
This is very clear, and I would like to repeat again that
You were to grant candidate status to Georgia this year and open discussions.
the European Commission will issue a report after the summer, and based on that report on enlargement, and based on that report, the European Council will take decisions by the end of the year. Probably it will be in December. On Georgia, we welcome the recent steps made in Georgia, and we will do everything to support the Georgian efforts, but we will see what will be the report after the summer, and a lot will depend on Georgia. The implementation of the recommendations will be key to allow the European Council to take decisions with regard with Georgia by the end of the year. Merci.